Hello, Dr. James Bogash, expert in health and longevity, and this particular study has an awful lot of interesting moving parts. I'll kind of cover all of those, and it has everything to do with B12, but it has to do with checking B12, it has to do with the form of B12, and it has to do with reasons why people may be deficient. So I'm going to cover all of that in this video. Before I do, make sure you like this video, share it with somebody you think needs the information, and subscribe to the channel. So, that being said, B12 is a very inexpensive, simple supplement. The problem is dietary-wise. First of all, vegans and sometimes vegetarians, we principally get this from animal sources. So again, it can be a challenge for people at that end of the spectrum to get enough B12, but also we require full digestion to get this done. So that means if you've got low acid, if you're on acid blocking drugs, or as we get older, the region of the stomach that makes stomach acid also makes intrinsic factor, starts to kind of wear away. So as we get older, things like metformin can lower the absorption of or lower B12 levels. We do get some degree of B12 from our microbiome, so antibiotic use can destroy that. Just a lot of reasons why we are potentially low. And then when we talk about a supplement standpoint, well, before we do that, B12 plays a huge role in a lot of different systems in the body. There's quite a few, but in particular, red blood cells, as far as making sure that they divide properly, and a DNA as far as making and protecting our DNA, as far as neurologic function, both making our myelin sheath that protects our nerves, as well as certain neurotransmitters like serotonin is high on the list. It plays a role in a lot of different things. So the preferred form for the brain is methylcobalamin, and that is what a lot of the higher quality supplements, that's a lot of what the oral supplements are. There is also cyanocobalamin, and there is hydroxycobalamin. Generally, I recommend hydroxycobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is not the preferred form for the brain. Think about a cyanide molecule, because that's what it's bound with. It's not gonna kill you, but it seems like cyanocobalamin doesn't do the job as well as other forms of B12. It also has to be activated into the methylcobalamin, which is the preferred form for the neurologic system. So do not use cyanocobalamin. If you're getting B12 injections, make sure you ask your doctor. Most of them are clueless, and do methylcobalamin. However, the only time methyl is not a good idea is if you happen to have old school amalgam mercury fillings. The methyl can bind with the mercury that always off gases from those fillings, forms methylmercury, which is generally more absorbable. So that's a problem, and that's one of the reasons why some supplements have hydroxycobalamin instead of methylcobalamin. Also, levels, like one of the supplements we use in the office is 2,000 micrograms. It's like 13,000 times the RDA, but we know that the RDA levels are not even, we're off a lot on RDAs, but on B12 we are way the heck off, especially as we start getting older. So all of that groundwork comes to the fact of what can B12 help us live longer, because it does so many good things in our body. So if we have higher B12, can it actually help us live longer? Comes into an interesting point in this one is, how do we know we have decent levels of B12? There's a couple different ways. First of all, there is checking just serum B12, which is usually not my preferred method. It goes up and down very easily. You could avoid B12 for a year and take it the day before a test, and it'll come back normal or high. So you look at what B12 is doing. That's things like lowering homocysteine. Methylmalonic acid, MMA, is those levels will go up if we're low in B12. And holocobalamin or holotranscobalamin is the active form, the usable form of B12 in the bloodstream. So this particular study was interesting. It looked at what's called the 3C B12 marker. So combining all three of those and giving it a score. So if you had higher methylmalonic acid and higher homocysteine, those are not good. But what we want is higher holo and lower homocysteine B12. So those gives you a score. And when they looked, this was a study over 12,000 people. They followed them for an average of about 16 years. And again, this is blood work. This isn't, hey, are you taking B12 or looking at diet? This is actually looking at markers in the blood. And about over that course of this study, about 30% of them died. So it was a pretty good marker to see how B12 levels might have an impact. Those people who had lower B12 had a 70% higher risk of all-cause mortality, dying from anything, 73% higher. They had an 89% higher risk of cardiovascular mortality. Again, you look at homocysteine, that plays a big role in cardiovascular mortality, and slightly increased risk of cancer mortality. Cancer is a little bit more variable, but the bottom line is B12 plays a role in all of these, and it's not just about taking B12 and you're going to live longer, but it is yet another factor in achieving longevity. Interestingly enough, most multivitamins, I've covered that in the past about what's a good multivitamin, what's not, and most of them have just crap levels of cyanocobalamin. It's not going to help. You need to have a good quality multivitamin with methyl or hydroxycobalamin at decent levels of 1,000 or more micrograms. As always, I'll post a link to this particular study in the description. Make sure you like this video, share it with somebody you think needs the information, and subscribe to the channel.